purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Kashyapa Muni said, "My dear wife, to follow this vow, do not be violent or cause harm to anyone. Do not curse anyone, and do not speak lies. Do not cut your nails and hair, and do not touch impure things like skulls and bones." Purport. Kashyapa Muni's first instruction to his wife was not to be envious. The general tendency of anyone within this material world is to be envious. And therefore, to become Krishna conscious person, one must curb this tendency, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Paramo Nirmatsaranam. A Krishna conscious person is always non-envious, whereas others are always envious. Thus, Kashyapa Muni's instruction that his wife not be envious indicates that this is the first stage of advancement in Krishna consciousness. Not to be envious indicates that this is the first stage of advancement in Krishna consciousness. Kashyapa Muni desired to train his wife to be a Krishna conscious person, for this would suffice to protect both her and Indra. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Miditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurund Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Saha Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu vyayevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, as we've seen in the story, Kashyapa Muni is in a predicament, right? He promised his wife, "I'll fulfill your desire," and his wife, smiling, said, "I want to kill Indra." So, of course, Indra is another son of Kashyapa from his other wife, and Kashyapa was very disturbed. How can she desire that? Can you imagine? You have your cousins and family, and then your auntie desires to kill you. So he became very upset. But because he's very intelligent, he thought, okay, let me devise some means so that she will fulfill her desires in such a way that she will be happy and Indra will not be killed. So this is intelligence. You fulfill your promise, you fulfill the desire of the one who asked you, and at the same time there is no harm for anyone, and at the end everyone is happy. And how is this possible? Srila Prabhupada explains, by being Krishna conscious. Whatever problems we have is because we are not conscious of Krishna, so that's the solution. Because she was overcome by hatred, because Indra killed her 2 children, so she said, "I want revenge, I want to kill him." So she worshipped Kashyapa very nicely. And he granted her boon, okay, yes, you can do it, you can do that, but you have to follow this vow for 1 year. So it's not easy. Yesterday I mentioned a story about a Vaishnava family who followed strictly a vow of fasting and not speaking on Ekadashi. So incidentally the husband broke the vow, so he had to be born as a dog. So if you make some mistake in previous ages in performance of the prescription of the rules of the vow, the consequences could be not so pleasant. So here, one reason could be that she will not be frustrated, and she will not, her desire will not be frustrated by fulfilling this vow, but at the same time, if she breaks in some way, because there are many things as we'll hear, it may not happen, but actually it will happen in such a way that still she will attain her goal. But the whole point of Kashyapa Muni's plan was she will follow a Vaishnava Vrata, and this will purify her. And by the end of the vow, she will actually be purified from her desire to kill Indra. And we'll see, with all the details given later on, how she very strictly tried to follow, and the story is very interesting at the end, how it ends. But I found it amusing that the first instruction and the first step of the vow is what? Do you remember? What is a few things he said in this first verse, the first instructions? What she should not do. Okay. That's how Prabhupada explains it in the purport, but in the verse, how he translates it?
No cutting nails.
That's come later. Yeah. She should not cut the nails in the hair. What else? Yeah, that's the first. Do not harm any living entity. Na hingsa, right? What was that? The verse. Yes. Na himsyat bhuta jata. So bhuta jata means do not harm any living entity. Then, what else? Shapa. What means shapa? Curse. Okay. Should not curse anyone. And then, do not, Rita means truth, Anrita means lie, do not speak lie. Vada means speak, and then Chindyan Naka, we said, the cutting nails, and then Nas Prishet yat Amangalam, do not touch things which are, Amangalam, impure things, inauspicious things. But the first instruction is Nahimsa, and she wants to kill. Himsa actually means from the verb han, means to kill, harm or wish to kill. So that's what he said in the verse 45 when he answered her prayer. He says, Putraste bhavita bhadre, oh my auspicious wife, if you get this child, you want a child, putra, Indra hadeva bandhava. Ha, again, ha means kill, to kill, han. So Indra ha, he will kill Indra and Deva bandhava, he will be friend of the Devas. And so he says, he promises that you will get a child who will kill Indra, and then you attain that by following this vow. And the first instruction is the vow is do not harm, do not kill anyone, do not desire to harm anyone. It's a kind of contradiction, right? The first instruction is do not desire to kill Indra. So you have to follow that in order to attain your desire to kill Indra. Very interesting. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that han, means to kill, but also means to go. So that's the advantage of Sanskrit, that has many meanings of one word, sometimes not related or even sometimes contradictory. But here, han means to kill and also to go. So Vishwanath Chakravarti explains what he actually means. He doesn't say Indra ha, you will get someone who kill Indra, but you will get a son who will go to Indra, who will follow Indra. So she's thinking, yes, I'm getting a real son who will kill Indra, but he means, no, he will be following Indra and he will be friend of the Devas, Bandhava. So he's giving these instructions, and I don't know what she thought by hearing this verse, do not wish anyone harm or do not harm anyone, himsa. Prabhupada says must not harm anyone, and in the translation, do not be violent or cause harm to anyone, and in the purport, Prabhupada says do not envy. Why is that? Why Prabhupada says in the purport, actually, the first instruction is to not envy, but in the translation is do not be violent. Is there any connection? Any opinion?
Violence, to be envious.
Why? Well, I can just be envious. The definition of envy is to feel a feeling of discontent by seeing others having more advantage or more possessions which you don't have. So why necessarily may not want your harm, but just not to be happy by seeing you more, having something more, be more advanced or something. Yes?
Maybe to be violent first you have to be envious, but there's no violence without envy.
Yeah. Actually, it's interesting. In the Sanskrit, there is not direct connection. There is, again, I mentioned the word the han, and then hansa. There's many meanings. Among them is a swan. Of course, we know about the swan. But also hamsa means envious, to feel envy and malice. Right? So again, it's related to han and to hingsa, like that, to violence and to hatred also. So there is some connection, but not so direct. As Prabhupada, in many places, he really interchanges these envy and violence and hatred. It's like, for him, it's synonyms. Envy and hatred and violence. Himsa. For example, similar verses there about himsa being manifestation of the mode of violence. Is which mode? Anger and violence. Krodha and himsa. Goodness? Passion? No, it's ignorance. It's tamoguna. Tamoguna, that's probably the only active part, the anger and violence. So Kapila Dev says in the third canto that they are due to the conditioning of the three modes, the performer of bhakti can do bhakti within different combinations of the modes. So bhakti is manifested in a certain way. And then he says, you could see someone practicing bhakti, but influenced by the mode of ignorance. You see in the behavior a few things, and some of them are anger, pride, and violence. And Prabhupada translates there, himsa again, as envy. So in many other places, and for example also violence, himsa is as we know, ahimsa is a very basic principle of the Vedic culture, and Krishna mentions that one should not be violent towards the living entities. And Prabhupada says the highest, translated again, himsa being enviousness, is the highest envy towards especially animals, is to kill them. So again, the connection, as you said, you will not do violence unless you are envious. And it's an interesting food for thought, how people, why are they envious of animals, to kill them? Because you usually think of someone to be envious of having something more. But if we really think, then there is really that part of the violence which is underlying feeling of some kind of a hatred. You cannot kill some creature without having this. So anyway, Prabhupada uses this really in many, many, many places, because its Shastra speaks about that a lot. Can you remember a place where Krishna talks about envy in Bhagavad Gita? right from the beginning. Yes, yeah, because you're not envious of me. I will explain. Okay, so what else? Some other place where he uses this word. Suya means anasuyave means someone without envy. Also, there's another word. So he says in one verse what happens with those who are envious and those who are not envious. In the next verse. That's in the 3rd chapter. So he says that those who are not envious and have faith, they can get free by following this instruction. Krishna says, by following these teachings, if you have faith and follow them with faith and without envy, you can be freed from the reactions of all sinful acts. And those who are envious will be frustrated in their endeavor to attain perfection. So in many places, Krishna says. And again, for example, in the 12th chapter, where Krishna gives, at the end of the 12th chapter, from verse 13 to 20, he gives a list of different qualities and behavior by which he is what? He says, if somebody is like this, that person is 12th chapter. Anyone remembers? Yeah? No? No one remembers. If somebody is such and such, he is Same Priya. Very dear to me. It's very dear to me. So it's a long list, more than 20 items are there in these 8 verses. But actually 2 are repeated twice. One is Santosha, just be always satisfied. One is with whatever comes, and the other is just be satisfied in general. But the other word he uses twice that's the first word he says in the 13th verse, adveshta. Adveshta sarva bhutani. So dvesh or dveshi is somebody who hates others, who has a malice, and Prabhupada translates there, who is envious. So adveshta sarva bhutana means someone who is not envious or is not harming others, who does not hate others. Yeah. And then later in the verses, Krishna says, nadveshti, someone who does not hate or is envious of others, is very dear to me. So it seems this is very important. If Krishna repeats it twice in one list and says somebody is very dear to me, so it's very important thing, and Prabhupada mentions that here. This is the first stage of advancement in Krishna consciousness. Why? Why this is the first stage? To become non-envious. Any guesses? Yeah.
The reflection of those qualities are in Krishna, so we are actually indirectly envious of Krishna if we are envious of another living entity.
Okay, so you say we are envious of Krishna, and that's the basis of our envy, and then it's how to say, transferred to other living entities also. So when we curb this or purify this, and then that's how we can advance in Krishna consciousness, because our envy towards him is purified and we don't envy him, which is the root of the root cause of our being here. Actually, the reason for our being is our envious towards Krishna. So it's very, very deep and very difficult. And we know these the 6 enemies, they are called in the Upanishads and many places in Shastra, which the list starts with Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Matsarya. So that's one is envy, anger, greed, lust, envy, delusion, like that. So envy is there, pride. Envy is there, Matsarya is another word for envy. And these inauspicious, contaminations, we have to be purified from them in order again to be able to approach Krishna. And our acharyas, they recommend to purify this, actually use them in Krishna's service. Have you heard that? How can you use krodha, a manifestation of ignorance, the anger in Krishna's service? To protect devotees. If you see somebody is harming others, you can become angry, right? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says that you can become angry if somebody is hampering the service to Krishna also. So there is a justified anger, but it's not selfish, it's not destructive like the one manifested from ignorance, and does not contaminate. It's actually purifying, because we remember Krishna, we do it for Krishna's pleasure. And then actually Narottam Das Thakur in Prema Bhakti Chandrika gives a whole one of the songs. He says, I will use anger like that, I will use kama, desire or lust, I will use that desire, that stimulus for pleasing Krishna, for doing things which are giving pleasure to Krishna, not to my senses. And even one can use delusion or madness in Krishna's service. So he gives examples, but only one item is missing in the list. Envy is not there. So only envy, you can't really engage it in Krishna's service. But it's very important that we are careful and aware and pray to Krishna to remove it, because it's like a demon. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur again explains that these inauspicious qualities, they are like the demons of Vrindavan, and only Krishna and Balaram kill demons, right, in Vrindavan. We can't do much, but pray to Krishna and follow the instructions of Guru Parampara. And Krishna within the heart can purify. Otherwise, you can do something like with anger, try to get distracted or be peaceful, or something, or again engage it in certain way. But envy is such a nasty feeling, it just comes without without knowing from where, and then it just stays, and then you don't know what to do. Isn't that? Do you have any experience? Have any one of you sometimes have been envious of someone or something? No? Yes? Okay, 2, 3. Others are pure, no problem. They are fortunate souls. Yeah, so how is it? Did you plan that envy comes in your heart? Okay, let me be envious. No, it just comes. It's like a pinching, right? Pinching the heart. That's why that's the definition. You feel discontent. You feel bad in a way. And then there is first is this bad feeling, and then it turns into rivalry, competition. That's another meaning of, again, these words, dveshti. And then becomes actually a malice, a feeling which is a bad intention. And then it turns into hatred, and then into violence, like that, harming other, injuring. So that's how the connection with all these words is there. It follows one after. So it just comes, or it's there, it manifests in some way because of our contamination. And you can't do much, with feelings, with thoughts. It's you can distract your mind and direct it, but the feelings is just there, isn't it? Can you just say, go away? And then it will go away, is it? Can you rationally remove envy? Just by your intelligence, you say, that's not good, okay, I'm done, you're gone, go away. it's you can, of course, it's helpful that you rationalize it, say, wow, well, why is this going on? And it's part of the process of purifying. You have to understand, why is this happening? Why I'm envious of something and someone. And then you try to understand and what I'm lacking and why is this. But actually you can't really do something physically for the feeling. But it can be purified by Krishna consciousness, by the mercy of Krishna. It just disappears, just like it appeared. So it's Krishna's mercy which we require for sure, and we have to understand the importance of this. And Prabhupada, therefore, it says, is the first stage in advancement of Krishna consciousness, and he quotes the second verse of Bhagavatam, Parama Nirmatsaranam. Matsara is the word for envy, and Nirmatsara means those who are not envious or not selfish, they're pure in heart. So that verse in Bhagavatam says, Bhagavatam is for those who are pure in heart, who are not envious. Otherwise, we don't have access if we're envious. So it's very important that we strive to purify this envy. And there are so many examples how envy can lead to really disastrous results. It's not just something innocent, okay, yeah, a little bit, but it can lead, and usually it leads to something, again, it starts with just feeling, and then it goes to some kind of harm, eventually coming back to you. And when it's connected with devotees, because we associate with devotees, then and if that envy develops towards devotees, then it's very dangerous. Can you remember any examples in Shastra where we've seen someone becoming envious of a devotee? That's the first thing comes in mind in Bhagavatam, Daksha, being envious of Lord Shiva. And he's expressing that envy in very violent language and abusive language. Any other? And that was a disastrous consequences. His head was changed. They were not very attractive. Yeah? Who? Okay. Yes, this is a very, very good example. He was so envious of the Pandavas. He was just burning with this envy the whole of his life. And at the end, when Ashwatthama brought the heads of the Pandava sons, he had some good heart in that sense that he was sorry. He said, why did you kill these boys? I wanted the Pandavas. So he was concerned about the dynasty, and Pandava sons, they can rule the world. They can be the future Kurus. But I can't stand the Pandavas to be. So, he was so envious. And again, that envy manifested in so much hate and so many attempts that he harmed the Pandavas and killed them. That's also a meaning of himsa, to kill. Other examples? Shishupal. What Bhagavatam describes about him? You remember? It's kind of striking. The first words he spoke since child was blasphemy to Krishna, because he was envious. They were kind of related, cousins. So he, even since small child, he knew about Krishna. He was burning with envy. So all his life he was just, again, blasphemous and hating Krishna because of envy. It's very, very good examples. From Chaitanya Charitamrita, maybe some examples. There are quite a few there also. But with bad consequences. Shishupala again lost his head, but actually he was delivered because of Krishna's mercy. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, for example, somebody remembers?
We remember his name. We don't remember.
But envious of whom?
He also lost the nose.
Okay. Okay, so he was envious of Haridas Thakur. And Gopal Chapala Gopala Chapala, he was envious of Srivas Thakur. So he was a Brahmana, and he just didn't like that. That's again a very standard way of manifestation of envy. You see, oh, this person is revered and worshipped by others and honored. So Srivas Thakur was very great Vaishnava, everybody famous Vaishnava. So this person wanted to defame him, Gopal Chapala. And then he went in the night and put paraphernalia for worship of Durga, which for Vaishnavas is considered, impure, because he put wine and some red vermilion and some other things, a red flower. So what did Srivas do when he opened the door and saw these things in the morning? Did he curse the person who has done it? I curse him. Did he do that? No. What he did? No, he did something. He said, "Please, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, come here. I want to show what I did last night. I worshipped Chandi." And then the Brahmanas came. What is this? Who did that? Of course, they didn't believe Srivas, and they called somebody to sweep and clean with Kaldang. So in 3 days, Chaitanya Charitamrita says, he got leprosy. So very severe, and he had these worms in the body, and then he was, of course, sent away from the village. So he was suffering greatly. And then he happened to see Lord Chaitanya once, was passing by, and he prayed, he says, you are Tumi Avatar, you are Avatar. You came here to save the fallen, I am suffering so much, save me. And do you know what Mahaprabhu answered? You want to hear? Are papi. Are means, hey, oh papi, you sinful person, bhakta dveshi, envious of devotees, tore na uddharaim, I will not deliver you. Koti janma, for millions of lives, eimate kidaya kayoyami. So, O sinful person, envious of pure devotees, I shall not deliver you, rather I shall have you bitten by these germs for many millions of years. Srila Prabhupada comments, we should note herein that all our sufferings in this material world, especially from disease, are due to our past sinful activities. And all sinful activities, actions directed against a pure devotee out of sheer envy are considered extremely severe. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted Gopala Chapala to understand the cause of his suffering. Any person who disturbs a pure devotee engaged in broadcasting the holy name of the Lord is certainly punished like Gopala Chapala. This is the instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As we shall see, one who offends a pure devotee can never satisfy Chaitanya Mahaprabhu unless and until he sincerely regrets his offense and rectifies it. So again, because of envy, sheer envy, one can make offense towards devotees and can ruin spiritual life, which have been practiced and cultivated maybe for many years or even lifetimes. One can lose everything just like that. Therefore, it's so important to not offend, and especially to not create circumstances where offense could be made. Now that's another topic, and that we don't have time to discuss about Vaishnava Parat and how to avoid it, but in general we have to be really careful and not just think that pure devotees, it's only about pure devotees and they are distinguished by external appearance. We can say pure devotees are such and such, wearing certain clothes or whatever. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains in Madhura Kadampini, where he gives the detailed descriptions of the stages and the progress of devotional service. So while we are on the stage of clearing anarthas, and our devotion is still unsteady, anishtata. So these anarthas are manifested in different ways. So there are aparadas, are some of them, and the aparadas include nama aparat and seva aparat, jiva aparat, and Vaishnava aparat. So he says the most grievous is Vaishnava aparat, and then he discusses who is Vaishnava, who is a devotee. And it's very important. He says anyone who is serving Krishna with sincerity and chanting the holy name is a devotee, and offense towards such a person will block our progress, if not really take away whatever advancement we did. In 5th canto, when Maharaj Raghugana realizes his mistake, that he was quite rude towards a great devotee, Jada Bharata, so he's praying, oh please excuse me, I did a great offense. And Prabhupada says, this is the way, as he explained just now in Chaitanya Charitamrita, unless one sincerely repents and asks for forgiveness, there is no way. Even Krishna can't help. And it's explained in Shastra that even the devotee may be forgiving, the dust of the devotee's feet is not forgiving. So we will get reaction, and therefore we have to be careful. So Prabhupada in one purport there in 5th canto says, Vaishnava Parada means a whole spiritual life is finished. It's gone. So therefore we need to be careful, and be careful with all devotees, not say, well, I can be negligent and don't, any normal, ordinary devotee, that doesn't apply. No, it applies to any devotee in any age, any gender, any social or spiritual position. One who is a devotee and sincerely worshipping Krishna, if we somehow envy them, harm them in some way, or blaspheme them, criticize unjustly, unnecessary, and with malice, will get severe reaction. So we have to be very, very careful, and we should pray to Krishna, and especially Srimati Radharani, that she can help us completely turn this envy, because that's as we said in the beginning, this is the fundamental principle here. Envy, and in the spiritual world, is just the opposite. Prabhupada says that's the other opposite principle is there. Here he says the principle is everyone envies anyone except, like here we read, the Krishna conscious persons. Everyone else is envious. But in the spiritual world, it's just the opposite. When you see someone more advantageous or more advanced or receiving more mercy, you become happy. And he said this is Radharani principle in the spiritual world. She's more happy than getting the Krishna's mercy directly for herself. When she sees that some devotee is getting the mercy or serving in some even small way, she's very happy. Actually, in Chaitanya Charitamrita says it 10 million times more. She's happy when she sees that Krishna is associating with others than with her directly, and therefore she is always trying to arrange other devotees to serve Krishna directly. So, yeah, this sounds really like, how is this possible? But that's the reality of the spiritual world. The more we advance, the more we purify ourselves, we'll start to realize it bits by bits, and one day, that's where, if we follow sincerely, that's where we'll end up. Our heart will be nirmatsara, pure, no envy, and we'll be happy seeing others, receiving the mercy, advancing. We'll be really happy. So it takes some endeavor and prayer and patience, and it is possible. Hare Krishna, thank you for your attention. Any comments, reflections? Yes.
Thank you so much. Very, very beautiful approach, and bringing so many different aspects of this envy. I was just wondering, it seems one manifestation of envy is coming through violence, but it seems envy might be in our heart and might influence our behavior, even before it comes to the last stage of violence. And you were saying, okay, it seems, if I understood well, the only solution is prayer, and that Krishna will remove this offense. But as long as we don't go to a level of violence, we will not want to admit some envy is there. We will not see the envy is there. So how do you recognize the envy and get the impetus to pray for this removal when somehow we never go to extreme level like violence, but it's there, so you don't feel like you have to deal with it because you don't really see it. It's very subtle.
Yeah, it's a good question. Thank you. Usually, when it manifests, you actually cannot miss it, but recognize, oh, it's there. It is a very tangible feeling. So when it appears, you can't say, well, I don't know if I'm envious. And so, therefore, at last, envy, anger, greed, they are quite visible when they manifest. You can really sense them. These are the 6 enemies, but then there are more subtle ones, which Raghunath Das Goswami explains in Manas Shiksha, and they are more insidious because you actually can't see them directly. This is pratishta and kapata, hypocrisy and desire for position and fame, like that. So anyway, it's another discussion, but usually envy is quite tangible. But that's what I first thought. You will know it when you. But there is another level of approaching this in a way that it's there in the conditioned heart, in the contaminated heart, even if it's not manifested. So I think that's what you're talking about. You may not be aware, but how to prevent it before it becomes manifested and it goes towards more malice and hatred and in some way desire to harm, subtle or gross. So therefore, we see prayers of devotees who actually preventively pray to Krishna, and while chanting also, please Krishna, remove these contaminations, remove these demons. And that's Bhaktivinoda Thakur's advice. When we hear Krishna's pastimes, and we should hear regularly, especially Vrindavan pastimes, and okay, we don't want, we can say, why we don't want to hear all these killings, this violence of demons, let's hear only rasa dance and something. But no, we hear everything, all the pastimes, they are all transcendental, and especially the killing of demons is relevant for our stage in the stage of anartha nivritti. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, because when we hear of this and pray in a prayerful mood, oh Krishna, please kill this demon of anger, of envy, and he will mercifully do it. So, yeah, even if we don't feel specifically like envy towards a particular person, still we have to pray and ask Krishna. And I mean, just by chanting sincerely and attentively, that Krishna does it. But again, that requires attention, and when we chant with attentiveness, and then we approach Krishna with this desire. These are demons, they are torturing me, and they are hidden there also in my heart, and please save me. Yes?
I was wondering, thank you. I was wondering about this feeling of envy. Sometimes I see a person who has something that I want, like a very spiritual, more advanced person, and I see this person is so content and so happy, and I think, yes, I want this also. And then I start asking, how do they do it? How do they come to this stage? And I start practicing more, and I feel it's quite motivating. So is this also envy? Is it bad? Or I was just maybe confusing.
No, that's not envy, because you don't feel bad about that person, and you don't actually feel resentment or feel any malice, any negative. It's not negative. You just appreciate, and then you want to follow. So that's actually it's not about, nothing to do with envy. You because again, definition of envy, you feel uncomfortable, somebody being more than you. But what you describe is you're not uncomfortable or unhappy or painful. You don't feel pain, but you feel encouraged actually. Oh, I want to become like that. So this is nice. It's not envy. If you see there is a difference and you want to emulate that, you want to become like that person, and that is exactly what is meant by Anushilanam. We follow the devotees. We aspire to become like these devotees, ultimately to become like some of the intimate associates of Krishna. That's called Raganuga Bhakti. We follow in the natural, spontaneous love which particular associates have for Krishna. And we are not, of course, envious of them. We want to become like them. We want to serve Krishna in the same mood.
And also I wanted to ask, you were putting emphasis on you may not do an offense against devotees, but what is with other people? Is it okay?
It's not. That's why there is Jiva Ahimsa. So we have to be non-violent, but it's one of the great anarthas, or Lord Chaitanya calls that upashaka, the weeds which grow and they can suffocate the real bhakti lata, the creeper of devotion. So he says, we water the creeper throughout the process of bhakti, of devotional service, hearing and chanting, but other weeds start to grow, and they are, he says, unlimited. So we have to be careful, because that's what happened in a garden. You plant a seed, you put the seeds, and then the plant starts to grow, and then the other things also grow. So you have to be a good gardener, Lord Chaitanya says. And he says there are many weeds, but I'll give you the main one. He lists 6 of them. So 3 are quite subtle at the end. Lobha, puja, pratishta, which I mentioned, it's very subtle. The pratishta, the desire to be someone. And Prabhupada says name, fame, adoration, distinction, and these are anarthas, subtle, but the gross ones, he says, jiva himsa is there. It's again, envy or violence towards the others, just other living entities. And then specifically for Vaishnava says that's much grosser, and that's, he calls it hati mata, is the mad elephant. It's more dangerous, but still it's a great anartha, or something which is impure in the heart, to be envious of others. And then kutinati is another one, which means crooked, or 2 meanings. One is to find faults in others, anyone else, not just devotees, and also to be hypocritical. That's kutinati. So all these are anarthas. But yeah, jiva himsa is a jiva himsa. So envious or violent towards others is definitely detrimental to bhakti. So we shouldn't think, okay, with devotees I'm nice, with other people, But actually, the more we advance, we'll see them as devotees also. As every jiva is devotee by constitution, so that's the whole point, to come to that level, to see everyone as devotee. Yes.
Just a small question of understanding the definition of ahimsa. Is it not to be violent or not to intend to be violent? Because it's a big difference. Like, if it's not to intend, we have a chance. Like, we are trying not to harm. But not harm, we cannot. Like, we are stepping on ants or something. We are just by living. So
Yeah.
you know what is the...
Yeah, well, there are subtleties of meanings, and of course, direct and meaning, and the most how to say, again, tangible and seen is don't harm anyone. And first and most, the greatest harm is physically, to kill someone or to physically injure them. And then there is the more subtle one, through words. You're violent with words, you speak harshly or offend someone, blaspheme. Then less subtle is in the mind. Again, you're hating. Some that's also violent, but then the less, especially in the Kali Yuga, it says the things in the mind, the actions, they don't have the reaction. But if you let them and harbor, feelings of malice, eventually it will come up through your words and maybe actions. And unfortunately, there are examples of devotees being harmful towards other living entities. There are devotees also physically harmful. So that's a very bad sign. So that's first we have to, of course, try to not be violent, in the grossest sense, then in a subtle way, and more subtle, then in the mind also try to avoid it. And then another level is a whole different approach to violence. Prabhupada says we should be non-violent by spreading Krishna consciousness, because if we are just indifferent towards other living entities and not trying to help them, either through knowledge distribution or prasadam distribution, then we're violent towards them. It's another level of a positive way of thinking how to not be violent. So, like that. And one thing, just I remember the last, is that in the spiritual world there is something which resembles that, and probably that's why we have it here so prominent, this envy. But there, that type of jealousy there is blissful, which we can't really understand unless we experience it. But devotees, they are sometimes, for Krishna's pleasure, they manifest type of jealousy and kind of even speak harshly, but that's pleasure. It's giving pleasure, either the friends of Krishna or the girlfriends, and then they sometimes speaks harshly to each other and joke or use sarcastic words and like that. But it's very blissful, very gives pleasure to everyone. It's because it's for Krishna, but everyone enjoys it. Although superficially it looks like, okay, it's from the other, like Raghunath Das Goswami, they brought him some prasad from the village of Chandravali. he threw it. I don't want anything to do with it. So what is it? Well, we are loyal to Srimati Radharani. But again, there is completely transcendental emotions and tastes, and it's for the pleasure of Krishna. It's nothing to do with this material malice and envy. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.